Go live. 3, 2.
Giannis cements his place as an all-timer. The NFL's right around the corner, and we've got some protocols, some COVID protocols to discuss. And producer Craig is filling in for producer Mitch on his honeymoon. Welcome to Two-Way Takes. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 4 of Two-Way Takes. I'm your host, Matty V. I am joined live, filling in for producer Mitch today, is one of my co-founders of Wicked Soccer Cards, is producer Craig, who is already having his first little volume difficulty behind the camera. Producer Craig, how you doing today, man?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to help out while Mitch is away.
Excellent. I know that guy's enjoying a cigar on the beaches of Waikiki right now while we're in here. Going to talk a little NBA Finals, NFL, some soccer, and the like. Very excited to have you. Craig, like I said, is a co-founder of the Wicked Soccer Cards group and Wicked Soccer Cards business that we run together. Big part of what we do outside of the podcasting world. So, Craig, happy to have you, happy to discuss today, and hopefully producer Mitch is watching from Hawaii and enjoys what he sees out of us today. But that being said, got a lot to go over today in this episode of Two-Way Takes. We're going to start things off with the NBA Finals, wrapped up the other night, and the Bucks closed the series down 4-2 against the Suns. Rallied back from 2-0 down after dropping those first 2 games. And really, I mean, the story of the series, especially the last 4 games, it was Giannis Antetokounmpo. He was the best player on the floor. The man cements himself as an all-timer, an NBA all-timer, with one of the greatest NBA Finals performances ever. And we will show the numbers to show you that. Producer Craig, what'd you think? What'd you think of Giannis coming through? We'll dive into some of the Sun stuff a little bit after that, but Bucks focus first. What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty awesome. Like he said, you have to have a super team to win the title. So, and Game 6, amazing individual performance. So, I'm sure you can want to touch upon that right now. Let's break that down.
Absolutely. So, like producer Craig said, big performance from Giannis Antetokounmpo in Game 6. A casual 50-piece. Guy breaks off a 50-piece in an NBA Final clinching game. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. His final line, right? Final line for Giannis. He finishes 16 of 25 from the field. Probably the most eye-popping stat, 17 of 19 from the free throw line. The man was absolutely killed for his performances from the free throw line all season, throughout the playoffs, in the finals, and he comes out ice water in his veins at the line, 17 of 19. A 50-piece to go along with 14 rebounds, and why not sprinkle in 5 blocks? Why not? The man was an absolute machine. There's no other way to say it. He was an absolute machine. He was an absolute machine. The Greek freak was exactly that. He was an absolute freak, filling it up on the floor. His presence was felt on the defensive end. He imposed his will on DeAndre Ayton, forcing Frank Kaminsky into the game multiple times, forcing bad matchups with the likes of Torrey Craig. It was too much. It was too much for the Suns to handle, and it really poses the question of where does this performance rank all time in terms of NBA Finals performances. So we actually got a quick list together, compiled a quick list, did a little bit of research, and we wanted to go through some of the other major NBA Finals performances from both within the last decade, beyond that, and a little further back into the 80s and 70s. So we'll go back in reverse chronological order. We'll touch LeBron, 2016. Well, actually, we'll go through Giannis's numbers first. So Giannis's final line for the finals, 35.2 points per game, 13.2 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 blocks to go along with 62% field goal percentage. Okay, 62% from the field. Incredibly efficient. 35 a game. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Along with the 13.5 rebounds. Unreal. Absolutely unreal. So he was the first player in NBA Finals history to average at least 30, 10, and 5 assists with 60% shooting. First player ever alone in that category. Other notable performances that we can compare him to. These are all-time finals performances. You look back to LeBron in 2016 with the Cavs against Golden State. Averages 29, 11, and 8. So LeBron almost averaging a triple-double on 50% field goal shooting. So obviously LeBron, a little bit of a different position, has more of a perimeter game, so you can understand that little drop-off, but still, that's not to take anything away from Giannis. You know, that 60%, bashing in the paint, got Ayton in foul trouble. I know we talked about it in episodes 2 and 3. You know, we talked about some of those keys that the Bucks needed to put in place in order to be successful in the series, and they did. I'm not saying Coach Bud was watching TWT, but I'm just saying very similar game plan that Matty V threw out. That's all I'm saying. Dwayne Wade in 2006, which this one snuck up on me. And Craig, I don't know if you read through some of these earlier. I did not realize that in 2006, that first Heat title, Dwayne Wade averaged 34.7 a game with 7 rebounds, 8 assists. So not as many helpers. But my God, man, at 24 years old, averaging basically 35 in the finals. That was the Dallas series going up against Dirk. And in similar fashion, like the Bucks went down 2-0, they rally back. Shaq was on that squad. That was another ring for Shaq. So 35, 7, and 8. I would still, Giannis still above that in terms of overall averages. Now here's the one. This is the one that it's really tough. The Diesel, Big Diesel himself, Shaq in 2000 with the Lake Show. 38, 16, and 2 blocks with 61% from the field. Probably the closest thing you can find to Giannis. I mean, he averaged 3 more points per game and 3.5 more rebounds per game, and he averaged an extra block per game and sprinkled in 2.5 assists as well. That might be from a statistical dominance and just an overwhelming dominance performance. And I know myself anyway, it's you're pushing, what is that, 21 years ago now, almost 22 years ago. That's a long time ago to really be able to take in how dominant that was. I do actually want to go back and watch that entire series. Those are ridiculous numbers. I would venture to say that, and we're going to dive into some of the other, all-time finals performances as well. I would say that either that Shaq performance, Giannis, or we're going to jump really quick to 1980. We'll get to MJ in a second. You know MJ's on this list, but I would venture to say Magic in 1980 is probably the only other performance more impressive, and that's only because he played the tail end of that series without Kareem. So you look at something like Magic, the numbers don't exactly stack up to Shaq and Giannis. So he averaged 21.5, 11, and 8. So still almost averaged that triple-double, but it should be noted that Magic, coming out in Game 5 after Kareem sprained his ankle, played essentially every position on the floor. Came out, ran the floor as a center, played 1 through 5, guarded 1 through 5, literally put the team on his back and carried the Lakers to a Game 6, 42 and 15. 42 points and 15 in that clincher from Magic. Then you obviously have MJ, 33.5, 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists in 98. So the back end of the second three-peat. So it just puts it into perspective how lucrative Giannis's numbers really were, how dominant he was. I mean, we just bulked him into a category with Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Shaquille O'Neal, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. That's the type of company you really want to keep, obviously. So it really was. It was a stellar performance, and it was incredibly fun. It was incredibly fun to watch Giannis take that final step. Like you said earlier, Craig, he made it a point in his presser afterwards to say that They did it the right way. Him and Chris Middleton have been in that Bucks team, on that Bucks roster, building and grinding and just working together and building that entire squad up for years now. And it really was, it was refreshing. It was refreshing to see them do it the way they did. I know a lot of people will say, they went through a battered Nets. The West, Phoenix got through the West with, an injured Lakers team, Kawhi out for the Clippers, yada, yada. At the end of the day, this is the same argument that I have about people who penalize something like Tom Brady for losing in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to penalize Giannis and the Bucks for winning those games along the way that they should have won. You know what I mean? Like when teams go down and they get hit with the injury bug or this and that, okay, I'm not going to penalize. I'm not going to call that a detriment to Giannis and penalize them for their accomplishments because other teams couldn't stay healthy. Other teams couldn't take care of business or what have you. That, to me, just doesn't feel right. I think it takes away from the accolades. It takes away from the accomplishments of the Bucks. I thought it was a really fun and entertaining finals. I thought the storylines were great. And I thought Giannis was great. I mean, he's a tough guy not to root for. I know on the flip side, you got Chris Paul and a really fun Suns team. Craig, I know you and our fellow friend Dave we were talking about that last night, about how you guys were looking at the Suns. And yeah, it's a fun team, but at the same time, you look at Giannis's overall body of work from his MVP seasons, Defensive Player of the Year, to now this run in the postseason. Really, really tough not to be happy for the guy. Really tough to root against the guy. So, that being said, one thing it should be noted on is some Giannis card prices. Had to look at that. Had to look at the card market for him. And I think this is a case. I think we had a couple people actually comment on it earlier. Totally a case where you really needed to be proactive to take some profits home in terms of Giannis rookie cards. So his 2013 prices, you could have bought on July 1st his PSA 10 Prism or Select base, his Prism base for $1,500, and now the most recent sale yesterday, $2,600, almost doubled, almost a full 100%. So that surge is real, almost a full 100% increase on that end. It's one of those things. I mean, everyone who's rushing out to buy when he's already getting ready to clinch a title, you're too late. You're too late. So situations like this, I think it's really, really important for us to look at benchmarks in terms of a player's potential value, particularly in the playoffs, right? You're going to have certain moments, certain benchmark moments where their value will exponentially increase, during a series win, a big game, a 40-point night, what have you. And as you go deeper and deeper into the playoffs and those benchmarks keep getting clear and the prices keep going up, I saw a lot of people saying, everyone's going to go out and start listing their Giannis cards and buying Giannis. Why would you buy at this point during the peak when we're going into the off season? Traditionally, every single sport, once the off season hits, prices soften because guys are now pivoting. They're going to be pivoting to football. They're going to be pivoting into still a very hot soccer market as domestic leagues start up. Even playoff baseball around the corner, very hot time as October creeps up on us. So for those of you who, I know we had a couple DMs on Instagram as well. For those of you who are asking, are we buying Giannis? I mean, it's a pretty resounding no. And this has nothing to do with the fact that he just won the title. The fact that he just won the title is excellent for the people who were buying 14 days ago. When you were prospecting, you were forecasting, the possibility of him winning the title. Now that he's won, that's great. Now I think it's a hold. You're going to see that little offseason dip, but relatively speaking, during the offseason versus pre-playoffs, you're going to see he's going to hold firm. So I think if you're looking to buy, I think you may have missed a nice window. You may have missed a nice window of, some nice benchmarks in terms of profit. If you're looking to sell, obviously a great time. His prices are up significantly, especially on his PSA 10 Prism bases. Select is very high, significantly lower pop report on his 2013 Select cards versus Prism. So good time to sell if you're looking to get out of the cards. If you've already, if you think you've gotten the profits that you want on it, if you're, exposed to it at a much smaller price, you're into it, 2 years ago or a year ago, whatever the case may be. Nice time to unload. Not a terrible time to buy, but it's a long-term hold buy season right now. So if you're buying Giannis right now, be prepared to hold. You have to buy with confidence, knowing that, he's got 4, 5, 6 more years of MVP caliber play in him. So that's little blip for the card end of things on the Giannis side. On the flip side, on the other end of the finals, though, have to talk about this, the Chris Paul narrative. The only word that comes to mind is unfortunate. So, Craig, I know we were talking about this yesterday. You were hoping for a Suns victory. What do you think this sort of does to Chris Paul's overall legacy as a player and a future Hall of Famer?
I mean, I think it's unfortunate. He put the team on his back and really expecting the Suns to do what they did in the regular season, never mind into the playoffs, and then to get to the finals and then lead 2-0. And you thought, all right, it's his time. Booker's on that team. Ayton has really stepped up his game. And now it's just like, oh, okay, Chris Paul, here he is, faltering again in the playoffs. So you have to wonder, I don't know if there's been any word yet as to whether he's going to re-sign with the Suns or, go to the Lakers and just tag team with LeBron and just try to get that ring finally.
Do exactly what Giannis said he didn't want to do.
Right.
Essentially.
Exactly. So, it definitely hurts his legacy a little bit. I know he definitely wants to get that ring. So I think he's going to need it, to really cement himself as one of the best ever.
I completely agree. I also, to a counterpoint to that argument, and it have to be fair to point out, Chris Paul was not bad in Game 6. He was not bad. You look at his number. He dropped 26. He was 11 of 19 from the field. Only 1 of 2 from 3, which, not that I want him chucking up threes. It would have been nice to see him get to the line a little more. He was only 3 of 4 from the line. But, he was very efficient. 11 of 19. He was above 50% shooting, 26 points, 5 assists. He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad in Game 6. If you want to talk bad, to be fair, Devin Booker, 8 of 22 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3. That's atrocious. That's absolutely atrocious. DeAndre Ayton, 4 of 12. Ayton, who I had high praises for the first 2 games, he was incredibly efficient. I think he had a 20-point, 19-rebound game early on in the series in Game 1 or 2. He was incredibly efficient. But a lot of foul trouble for him. He had 5 fouls last night, 2 nights ago during the finals. I think as the series went on, I truly believe that Giannis started to take in all the information of what the Suns were throwing at them defensively, what they were doing offensively, and I really do think that the Bucks and Giannis in particular took that information in and just started to figure them out. They started to figure the Suns out. They started to figure out how to unlock them, how to get Ayton out of the game and be less efficient, to force the likes of Craig and Frank Kaminsky into the game, which is a matchup nightmare when you're staring on the likes of Giannis and Chris Middleton pick and rolls. But back to Chris Paul, it's tough. It's tough because Game 6 was not a bad game for him. It wasn't bad. So it's not like he up and laid down in the clincher. But you look at something like Game 5, you wonder about his health in the previous games, particularly in Game 5. Late in that game, you could see he was giving the possessions off to Cam Payne at one point. He did not want the ball. He was having other players on the floor run that offense. The offense was not running through him in the final 5 minutes, which were very, very curious. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, did he have something going on with his hand? Were there other issues? I know there was some talk about some possible hand ligament issues with his left hand, a possible ankle injury at one point. So it'll be very interesting. It'll be interesting to see if he was playing through anything. If not, I almost hope he was. I almost hope it does come out that he was dealing with some significant injuries. Because if not, when you look at some of those moments late in Game 5 where he doesn't want the rock, it's very obvious late in the game and late in Game 5 when they need to convert on some possessions and they need stops. He's not asking for the ball. He's not going to get the ball. He's letting his teammates, run the offense through them and sort of, standing off on the wing. And it was very odd. It was very odd to watch. So again, I don't know if it was a situation where he didn't want the ball, if the moment was just too big for him, or if there seriously was something wrong from a health perspective. I do hope he was playing through something. Not for the fact that I hope he's hurt, but for the fact that it would make more sense. It would make more sense in terms of why he was much more passive towards the tail end of some of those games. So, and I mean, it goes without saying. I mean, some of his rookie cards early on, I mean, I wouldn't call it a dive bomb, but certainly softened, as did Devin Booker. DeAndre Ayton surprisingly actually held pretty well. I think people are holding out some hope. I still think of those three guys, I mean, Booker was already sort of this fringe superstar, I think, in many NBA fans' eyes. I think Ayton was the guy, though, despite a bad Game 6. I mean, and bad in the sense he was inefficient. He was very inefficient and got into foul trouble, which, I mean, you get into foul trouble against the Defensive Player of the Year, and, you know, you're trying to, you know, unlock a 2-time MVP and arguably one of the best, definitely one of the best 2 or 3 players on the planet. It's tough to ask. It's tough to ask for a kid who I think he's 22 years old. You know, that's a lot to ask of him. And I do think he showed enough in the finals and in the playoffs as a whole that people are really starting to see some of his potential. They're seeing the prospect when he was coming out of Arizona. They're seeing some of the things that he can do, some of the aspects of his game that he can polish up to take into next year. I do think it's going to be very, very tough. Very, very tough for them to make this type of run again, particularly if Chris Paul's not on that roster. I don't think Booker and Ayton are enough to carry them through the West, especially when you look at Golden State with a healthy Klay Thompson coming back. Potentially, should they make a Damian Lillard move, if they move something like Wiggins and Wiseman along with a boatload of picks, and they bring Dame in, and now you have to go through Steph Curry, Dame Lillard, and Klay Thompson. Hypothetical, obviously, but that is a very, very formidable Golden State team, even without Lillard. Even without Dame, you bring Klay back into the fold. You look at that. You look at vintage Steph from this year. That was MVP Steph Curry that he was doing towards the end of the season and towards the play-in games. You put Klay Thompson into that team, and if you retain Wiggins, you keep Wiggins on that team, who had a very, very nice resurgent year compared to his years in Minnesota. That's a really tough team. Obviously, a healthy Lakers team with LeBron and AD, assuming AD comes back fully healthy. That's a tough team. You can't discount the Clippers with Kawhi coming back. You know, Kawhi comes back healthy. The West is loaded, man. The West is absolutely loaded. I think it's going to be really tough for Phoenix, even with Chris Paul back on the roster, another year older. You don't know how this, the hangover effect of losing the finals is going to be. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be really tough for them to be able to make this kind of run again, which is unfortunate because, I mean, Chris Paul's definitely a guy I'd like to see win a ring. It would be nice. He deserves a ring. He's done everything right throughout his career, but that train never fails to be on time. The Chris Paul playoff train, always on time, and it always stops short of Titletown. So it's tough. It's tough one for CP3. But again, super happy for Giannis. Did you catch the Instagram video he did when he was in line at Chick-fil-A, Craig?
No,
no,
I didn't.
So for those who may have missed it, he went on Instagram Live with the Larry O'Brien trophy in his car, pulls through a Chick-fil-A drive-thru with the trophy in his lap, and orders a 50-piece nugget. It tells the drive-thru attendant, not 49, not 51, 50. I want 50. He called them like mini something. He didn't call them nuggets, which is really funny. I highly recommend. It's a really good watch. But that guy's having about as good of a time as it reminds me of when Ovechkin won the cup for Washington. The guy is just loving life, and it's the kind of guy who you love to see how much fun he's having. But Greg, looks like we got a question over there in the chat.
Question for you.
Yeah.
We're not going to buy Giannis right now. It's heading into the offseason, right?
Right.
Long term, are you buying Giannis or Luka?
I think so. Oof, that's tough. I think it has to be Giannis, specifically because there's now more data that Giannis has won, can win. That team is set up for continued success, for deep playoff runs. Middleton's locked up. Holiday's still going to be there. That team has its core in place and has shown that it can be and will be a title contender for the next several years, barring any outrageous circumstances. Now that being said, I think Luka's potential, I think his ceiling could be a hair above Giannis's, particularly because the game that Luka plays, right, from the perimeter, I mean, he's got power forward physical attributes with point guard handles and shooting ability. I mean, when you watch Luka, he will destroy you if left unguarded on the perimeter. He will destroy you. You know, he's a sharpshooter, but he also can take it to the cup so smooth. So he's kind of like he reminds me of when Randy Moss runs a route. You know, it doesn't look like Randy's running that fast. Same when Luka's taking it to the cup. It doesn't look like he's moving that fast. But, you know, plenty of people, and even Rick Carlisle, when he was still there, have said, you know, you don't realize how smooth and how efficient and how quick he is with the basketball unless you're on the floor watching him. So I think as a full potential body of work, I think Luka's ceiling is a hair higher. And I know that's weird to say, given that Giannis has 2 MVPs, the Defensive Player of the Year, and just won a title. And it's not to take anything away from Giannis, because I think the version of Giannis that we're seeing right now is pretty much what he is going to be. Like what we saw in this finals, what we saw the past couple of years, I think we're seeing a final form, so to speak, of Giannis and what he is going to be. That being said, I don't think we've seen Luka's final form. You know, I mean, I can't say with confidence we've ever seen Luka in phenomenal shape. You know, he came in bad shape, like coming into the season. I know a lot of people say, you know, they weren't given enough time. You know, they were supposed to start the season later, and then they had to report early. That to me isn't an excuse. I love Luka. I think he has more potential upside, like a hair higher of a ceiling. But right now, if I'm buying strictly cards, I'm buying Giannis over Luka. And here's the other thing. Here's the other reason. I can't believe this wasn't one of the first things I said. The other reason I'm buying Giannis over Luka is pop reports. So Giannis rookie year 2013, it was super underproduced Prism cards. The very early years of Select, which were incredibly underproduced. I think I saw his Giannis's Silver Select Refractor. PSA 10 is a Pop 77. Pop 77 cards is double digit still. That card has been around for 8 years. 8 years, and it's a double digit Pop 10. So, I mean, Luka, the equivalent to Luka, I mean, you look at his Silver Prism, that's a pop, I think, last I checked, was probably 1,500 PSA 10, something like that. So, as in that, we're not even looking triple digits. We're at quadruple digits for the PSA 10. So, obviously, you know, Luka's got the more recent fan base. You know, a lot of younger collectors coming in, you know, are watching him, and you know, it's a sexy card to have. But I think given Giannis's overall body of work, given the pop report for each respective rookie card, I would go Giannis. If I'm buying, I mean, if you put $3,000, you know, $3,000 in my hand right now, you said, hey, you can buy yourself a 2013 Select Giannis PSA 10. Or you can buy, you know, Luka Silver PSA 10s aren't that cheap. So, or you can, you know, take it and put it towards a Luka Silver PSA 10 out of 2018 Prism. I'm buying the Giannis. You know, it's proven track record, lower pop. So I would go with him. That being said, I don't think Luka is a bad buy at all. I think that Mark Cuban, being the businessman he is, he, you know, recognizes that the Mavs, you know, they need to add a piece. I'll tell you this, it wouldn't totally stun me to see the Mavs be a late player in the Damian Lillard sweepstakes. You know, some sort of swap where I know making the money work would be tough, but if you could make some sort of swap with Kristaps Porzingis, who obviously would have to be a centerpiece there, and a boatload of picks, you know, maybe some other player swaps to kind of make the money work, to see something like a Luka Lillard backcourt combination, that would be pretty electric. How likely is it? Probably not super likely. And honestly, I would actually love it even more if Porzingis just sort of figured himself out and became, you know, the player that we all have been hoping and that we all been watching, because that would be absolutely electric to watch, to see if he could team up naturally with Luka to make that push for Dallas. But so not necessarily a bad buy on the Luka either. But that being said, I think we go into our next headline, which is the NFL preview. So the big developing story in the NFL right now is the COVID protocols. There was a memo that was sent out by the NFL to all 32 teams in regards to vaccinations, which has solicited a lot of responses from notable stars like DeAndre Hopkins, like Jalen Ramsey, even Ezekiel Elliott as well. So actually, we got a piece of the memo here. It's from NFL.com. So basically, on Thursday, today, the NFL sent a memo out to its clubs stating that if a game cannot be rescheduled during the 18-week schedule due to a COVID-19 outbreak amongst unvaccinated players, the team with the outbreak will forfeit the game and be credited with a loss. So basically it's saying if your team has unvaccinated players and a COVID outbreak happens that affects the ability to play the game, that team with the unvaccinated players will be hit with a loss. Craig, what do you think of this? How do you feel about this? Do you think the players are justified in their outrage, or I should say outrage, but their critique of the memo, the timing of it? What's your thought? I'm curious to hear your thought on this before I dive into it a little bit here.
Yeah, sure. I think NFL kind of got sick of doing the whole postponing and rescheduling and everything last year that happened. Is it harsh? Yes, I think so. And now you're getting into, DeAndre Hopkins just doesn't really want to play anymore. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty harsh, but the NFL is a business and they don't want to mess around with their schedule, and they want all of their players healthy on the field. If you've got teams playing with, the Patriots didn't play with Cam Newton on Monday Night Football against Kansas City, which would have been an awesome game, but they played with, Brian Hoyer because Cam Newton got COVID. And, that's just one example of, COVID affecting the team and then essentially affecting the product on the field, which hurts the business.
I'm glad you mentioned that. So, when I read some of the comments from Hopkins, from Jalen Ramsey and whatnot, as someone who can completely appreciate an individual, a private citizen of the United States, their rights to not take the vaccine, to choose to not take the vaccine. As a private citizen, that is your right. This is America. You have the freedom to make that decision. It shouldn't be forced on you. But at the same time, you have to realize, you are employed by a private business. The NFL is a private company. You know what I mean? So if your employer, if your boss says, hey, we're going to need you to do X, Y, Z, so that way, our organization as a whole does not suffer, so we don't, because not for nothing, the NFL lost millions upon millions of dollars last year, millions of dollars. And not to say that this is all about money. I'd like to think that, the memo is coming from a place of player safety, and, they're looking out for the, the families and the players themselves and their well-being and whatnot. Definitely about money. It's about money. The NFL absolutely bled it, through every hole, empty stadiums last year. I'm sure there's probably plenty of undocumented marketing revenue, and other television revenue, advertising revenue that, went out the window, that, was put on hold, whatever the case may be, concessions, parking, and that trickles down. I'm sure there's plenty of people who rely on some of the income from those games, stadium workers, food vendors, whatever the case may be. So, it does affect a lot of people, not having teams fully vaccinated. So I would say from the NFL's perspective, I think it's a fair rule. It's a private institution, if you don't want to be vaccinated, if you don't want to go out and, get the Pfizer vaccine, get the, Johnson & Johnson, whatever the case is, I think it's your right as a private citizen of America to do so and not do that. And I'm for that. I'm all for individual liberties in that case. But I mean, when it comes to your job, if your employer says, hey, this is XYZ, this is what, we're requiring as an organization, I mean, it's kind of fall in line or find another piece of employment, find another place to be employed. Not only these guys are getting paid millions and millions and millions. These are the elites of the United States. These are elite financial situations in many cases. Even at the bottom of the totem pole, the lowest paid players in the league are still getting paid more than 90% of blue collar working Americans around the country. So it's for me, it's a little tough to sympathize. When DeAndre Hopkins comes out and says, tough for me to see a future in football, yada yada, when this is being forced upon me. All right, man, that's fine. Like, I respect his decision. If he doesn't want to take the vaccine, completely respect it. That is your right as an American citizen, to not have your civil liberties infringed on. But don't turn around and, make a stink and say, oh, the league's, not looking out in my interest, yada, yada, this and that. Like, the NFL has put millions and millions of dollars into your bank account. They're asking you to get vaccinated, and again, is it financially driven? For sure. They'll play, parts of this is player safety, yada, yada, this and that, which is, if I'm any PR person for the NFL, I am hammering that narrative home the whole way and absolutely not making it a financial thing. But of course it's a financial thing. Of course it is. So many of these teams, and not that the owners need the money or anything, but so many, people that are probably affected on, the media end of things, the television coverage, like I said, all the workers in the stadiums and whatnot. There are a lot of people who get affected by, no fans in the stadium, games being canceled, this and that. So, I wasn't really opposed to it. I wasn't really opposed to it. I mean, as far as, I guess legislation is the wrong word. I guess as far as the memo goes, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I mean, they want all the players vaccinated. They don't want games getting canceled. They don't want outbreaks. I can't really blame them. I can't really blame the NFL for that specifically. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the story develops, see if any other players speak out and whatnot. Be an interesting story to watch, man. Interesting story. On a more positive note on that topic, I did read something earlier on, and I forget if it was Field Yates who tweeted it. Someone had tweeted it earlier that according to numbers that they've received, over half the league, like well over half the league, is vaccinated. And that's the entire all active rosters. It's well above 50% that all active NFL players have received the vaccine. So I mean, they are on their way to a really healthy percentage. We'll see how that memo impacts everything going into preseason and the regular season. But speaking of preseason and the regular season, one thing I wanted to touch on is just, season's right around the corner, and there's a lot of breakout candidates that I think are, right on the precipice of really, making a splash. Craig, is there one guy that you're looking for, that you're particularly looking at to make a big impact for their team this year?
I'm going to say and Cortland Sutton because...
Ooh, okay. I had Judy on my list too.
Because Aaron Rodgers wants to get out of Green Bay.
Oh my God! Where were you last? So last week we said, okay. Finish that take. We'll keep going.
I could see him playing for Denver. I could see him. Elway wants to kind of circle back to this Peyton Manning, try to get the last bit of Aaron Rodgers he can get.
That's a good point.
And he's got the ability to, because Aaron Rodgers just does not want to play for Green Bay anymore. So, yeah, I mean, that's, tongue in cheek a little bit there, but yeah, what do you say?
So mine, and it may not be a set. Judy was actually my kind of, not under the radar, but sort of, chic, sexy pick. But I'm just going to come out and say, because I loved how he looked coming into last season, and before he got hurt, I thought he was a stud. I'm looking at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, man, all reports show that his recovery and rehab from his knee injury have gone splendidly well. He's above, he's above his timeline. He's ahead of his timeline in terms of recovery. And a lot of the reports out of training camps, out of the mandatory camps that from the Bengals is that he's throwing the ball like a fucking cannon, dude. Like an absolute cannon. So the arm strength, not an issue. He showed how poised he was and how cool he was over at LSU. And for the beginning of last season, the guy was on his way to running away with Rookie of the Year over Herbert in the first 3-4 games of the year before he got hurt. So I am really, really excited to see how he bounces back. Since he sneakily has a really good offensive line and some good weapons there. So it's going to be interesting, man. I mean, you get a healthy Joe Mixon back. He's got some weapons in the receiving game that they went out and got. I mean, I think it's going to be fun. I think he's going to be a really fun player to watch. I'm watching T. Higgins, too. I think that could be a really fun link-up between those two this year. I'm really excited to watch Joe Burrow, man. Very, very excited to watch Joe Burrow. One little hometown pick. How about Josh Uche from the Pats? Little edge rusher extraordinaire. So, I mean, he started to see some playing time from Belichick. He's quick. He comes off the edge really fast. He kind of reminds me of sort of like a hybrid Chandler Jones, Richard Seymour-esque kind of style, somewhere in between. Not that he's at that level, but maybe could be somewhere in there. You know what I mean? Given his quickness coming off the edge. He's a fun guy to watch. Let's talk the Pats really quick. Let's talk the Pats because we last week Mitch and I on the rapid fire questions at the end. We did a quick one on do the Pats finish above 500? You think are they a 500 football team this year?
Yes.
That's a big sigh.
Yes.
That's a big sigh.
Yes, I say they are. Yep. Either get it right, or I think he's got a short leash. I know Belichick wants it to work with him, but Mac Jones is there now.
I was just gonna say. So you think? Let's say Cam comes out. Let's say we start 1-2. Okay, we start 1-2, going into the fourth game of the season. Cam's 6 for 16 for 80 yards, and we're sputtering out. We see Mac Jones. How short's that leash? Like where's the line to where Belichick says, all right, we got to see what Mac has. You know what I mean? Like at what point, is he gonna let Cam try to rally us from a potential hole? If we dig ourselves a hole and we 2-3 losses in a row, obviously, I mean, I know the New England fans and the media around here will be crying and screaming for Mac Jones, especially if Cam doesn't look good in those games. But where's that line? Where's that line in terms of, how far do we let Cam go? How much leash are we really giving him before we have to give Mac Jones a look? What do you think on that?
Well, I think if he has a terrible line, but they still win.
Totally different story.
Right?
Totally different story.
So they're still piling up the wins. He's gonna stick with Cam. If Cam is not doing so hot and they're losing, I could see it at, I'm going to say 6 games.
So that's fair.
I'll say 6 games.
Yeah, that feels like a long enough leash where you're kind of giving him the respect, that former MVP and whatnot, beloved in the league and whatnot. But at the same time, 6 games in, if we're 2-4 in week 6, it's really tough. I mean, I understand. I mean, I don't think anyone in New England is staring down Super Bowl aspirations right now. But at the same time, this is still a roster that has a ton of players from our last Super Bowl on it. There's still a lot of playoff and Super Bowl winning talent on this roster. So I don't think it's, far-fetched to say that, New Englanders still expect for us to be in the playoff hunt, and win, to be, getting out of wild card weekend, getting out of a divisional round. I don't think that's, I don't think that the bar is so high that's asking too much of this team, especially given the coach that we still have, So I would agree with that. It's gonna be a fun year, man. It's gonna be a fun year. You do your fantasy drafts yet?
Not yet. No. Definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah,
but circling back, he's got to get at least 6 additions of Johnny Smith, Henry.
true. Yes,
Aguilar.
yeah. Who
He's got to get used to those players. Obviously, we've got the preseason this year, and give him a handful of games to show that he's still got it. Otherwise, hand it over to Mac. Or Stidham, whoever's ready.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah, I actually, it's funny that occasionally thinking about the Pats, it kind of goes over my head that we sign Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith still. So which I love. I mean, honestly, I loved Hunter Henry when he was with the Chargers, and Jonnu had a really nice year with Tennessee as well. So I think both of them really serviceable. Jonnu can also block as well. He's a really, really nice blocker in the run game and in the pass game. I like both of those. I like both of those signings. There's still some weapons at wide receiver. And obviously, an absolute stable of running backs that can just be, unloaded at any given time. So I think there's enough. There's enough weapons there that I really don't think there's any excuse this year with a full off season. Cam's with far few issues in terms of COVID. At camp and preseason and whatnot. I think there's far few excuses this year. And I really would like to see Cam succeed. I mean, I've watched a couple other podcasts and a couple interviews, with Cam, like specifically the, you ever watch the I Am Athlete podcast with Brandon Marshall and Fred Taylor and all them? So it's really, really good show. And they had Cam on probably 3 or 4 months ago or whatever. And they just did it's a really informal interview. I highly recommend it for anyone watching the show right now. Check out the I Am Athlete podcast with Cam Newton. And they just chop it up. Obviously, they talk about Cam last year in New England. He's much more candid about, the Patriot way and about some of the issues and challenges that he faced in New England. If you're a Pats fan, I recommend watching it. It's a good watch. And it really does make you like Cam. It really does. Like, you can see he wants to succeed. He wants to buy into the system. He does believe he still has a lot left in the tank. And that he can still thrive. So it's a really good watch. It's a really good watch. I think that's it's encouraging as a Pats fan. He does want to be here. He does want to win. He wants to put a really good season together and show people that this past year was not indicative of what he still has left in the tank, the type of player that he still is. So be fun, man. Be fun. Very excited. Got a couple fantasy drafts myself, but football season, man. We're gonna have to do a fantasy episode. I think we're definitely gonna have to do a fantasy focused episode pretty soon in a couple weeks. I think I know a lot of people, plenty of the viewers, plenty of people who like the page are big fantasy players. So definitely gonna have to look into that into the future. But to take us home, we got about 10 minutes left on the pod. So to take us home, we're gonna do a little discussion. Little soccer discussion here. So, as I mentioned earlier, producer Craig is one of the co-founders of Wicked Soccer Cards, a little company that I, and our friend Dave have founded. We have a nice little group. All three of us are soccer enthusiasts. Also, run a bunch of soccer breaks, and are collectors ourselves in our own right. So, wanted to close out the show, just touching a little bit on what we can look forward to in the soccer world. So obviously we got Gold Cup going on right now. We've got the Olympics, a lot of youngins, U23 players playing out in Japan, the Olympics right now, and domestic leagues. Tons of some of the main domestic leagues starting up on August 13th. We got the EPL, we got the Bundesliga, we got La Liga, all starting on August 13th. I'm really, really looking forward to it. I mean, I'm still riding the Euro hype. And just everything. I thought that tournament was so much fun to watch. I had an absolute blast watching it. And I'm fully ready to immerse myself into every Wolves game, every Dortmund game, and to watch La Liga on ESPN, which is awesome. ESPN's carrying La Liga this year. That's going to be great. That's going to be great for the sport, to highlight, the Spanish Premier Division. Craig, what league and or team? I mean, obviously Craig's a big Liverpool fan, so I mean, I know it's going to be a biased answer coming, but trying to look at this question a little unbiased. What league and or teams are you most looking forward to watching once the domestic leagues kick off on August 13th?
So, I'm definitely looking forward to, of course, Liverpool as a huge supporter. But I do want to see what Chelsea is going to do this year in the
yes.
EPL. There's still rumors that they could get Erling Haaland. Financial fair play is not in practice right now, so he has a buyout clause of $75 million at the end of this season. So it's whether or not Roman Abramovich wants to overspend to get him now, or they go with a team that won the Champions League this past season and see if they can take over Man City. They do sort of remind me of when Jurgen Klopp got to Liverpool and he took over, brought him to the Champions League final, lost to Real Madrid, next season won Champions League, and then won the Premier League right after that. And so I think they're kind of on that rise. They're loaded with young talent going forward. Christian Pulisic, Kai Havertz, Timo Werner, Mason Mount, of course. So that'll be really interesting to see if they either add Erling Haaland now before the season or after the season. Either way, all eyes on Haaland for me. I want to see how Dortmund plays without Sancho. They may add another winger, or they're going to have Reina, and they've got Jude Bellingham along with Moukoko. So
I was saying it'd be interesting to see if Moukoko. I know he plays more of a central role. That's what he's most comfortable at, but would be something to see them play, or even play, sort of a pseudo 4-4-2, and have Moukoko and Haaland play at the head of that spear, of that attack. So that would be something really fun to watch. Imagine, them with Jude right behind them. I don't think they'll slide Marco Reus out of that attacking, because Reus played so well with Haaland linking up towards the tail end of the Dortmund season. But imagine a world where you have Moukoko and Haaland sort of, even if Mukoko's playing a little bit of a false nine, slides out wide. I don't know if he's played much winger. A lot, really, really exciting. So Dortmund would be the team that I'm looking forward to most watching. I do think it's gonna be a little bit of a litmus test for Haaland, because if you look at a lot of his goals this past year, Sancho was on the beginning of a lot of them. Whether it was that secondary assist, the key suggestion, if you will, or if he was on the immediate assist, Jadon Sancho was a big part of the creativity and the fluidity of that offense that helped make Haaland as successful as he was. That's not to say Haaland was entirely dependent on it. That's definitely not the case. Sancho was banged up a little bit, and Marco Reus actually played really well. He had some really good link-up play with Haaland throughout the year as well. And I don't think it's anything. That someone like Gio Reyna, who in the minutes that we saw during Champions League and in the domestic league as well in the Bundesliga, Gio Reyna had some really nice flashes for Dortmund this year. Some really nice flashes. So I think between that, some more development that he'll get with the national team as well, I think he could be, it's tough to say he'll play up to the level that Sancho has, but I do think he will be serviceable, man. He distributes the ball really, really well through the midfield, and that's all Haaland needs. I mean, it's so obvious, like, when he's feeling it, when he's clicking, when he's grooving, all you need to do is put a ball in his general area, and he's strong enough and fast enough to go get it, muscle people off, make a play, make a dangerous play in and out of the box. That's what makes him so attractive to, like what you said, to a team like Chelsea. Imagine him playing at the nose of that attack, with Havertz and Mount behind him, just making runs, distributing balls. He's not a terrible passer of the ball too. He can hold up that ball and play plenty of diagonal runs, underlapping and overlapping runs underneath him, and lay those balls off, just coming right through the midfield. So it would be really, really interesting to see him over at Chelsea. I just, like you were saying, I don't think any of the clubs coming off the COVID year are gonna be that desperate. Had Chelsea not won Champions League, maybe that argument, sticks a little more where, they want to win now. They want to take advantage of, the younger assets now and start building. But coming off a Champions League win, well, what do they get for winning Champions League? Because you get a giant bonus for that, right?
Yes.
Do you know the number off the top of your head?
I don't. I want to say when Liverpool won, I think Premier League was 50 million.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much it was for Champions League though.
Yeah. So,
but it's quite a bit, and also you also have more ticket revenue,
right?
Ad revenue, all that stuff added onto that as well.
Right. So, I think had they not won Champions League, maybe that argument, they Tuchel feels like he's gotta be a little more aggressive, so to speak. But I just think to wait until the end of the season and enact that buyout clause for Haaland, it's the no-brainer financially, because you get one more year of watching him at Dortmund. If he pots another 30, 35 goals in the Bundesliga, it's a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Now not that I think anyone's questioning if he's the real deal or not, but it almost benefits Haaland even more. Get that one extra year in the Bundesliga, pop another 30 goals, help Norway to possibly qualify for the World Cup. His stock could be the highest of. You could argue it'd be one of the biggest transfers of the last 2 decades. I think he's that type of talent. He's a talisman up front. So it could be that level of a transfer that completely changed the shape and changes the direction of a team. So it'll be interesting, man. Obviously, we've broken a lot of product on our end in Wicked Soccer Cards, seen plenty of his rookie stuff. It's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be what's gonna be fun. It's gonna be really, really fun. And we touched upon this a couple episodes ago. Is soccer at the National. So National obviously is a week away. 1 week from today, I'll actually be down there, streaming live on the 2A Takes page and on all our other card pages. Just doing a little talk from the National, which should be a lot of fun. Gonna be the first year that the National sees a big, robust soccer market. This is the first time that the soccer market's been, at the forefront for collectors, like right in front of everyone's eyes in terms of, real money card values, boatloads of prospects from this year, from last year, between Fati and Haaland and last year's products. And this year you got guys like Bellingham, Mukoku, Pedri, Camavinga. I'm really, really excited to see how the soccer market shapes out. I think it's gonna be a lot of guys who are gonna be very much interested in some of the newer rookies. And I think it's going to help some of the older stuff. I think it's going to help a lot of those, the Messi mega crack stuff, the Ronaldo mega crack stuff, the early Messi and Ronaldo prisms, from 2014, even their 26 World Cup cards, the first Panini World Cup cards. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, man. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to it. Who's one player? One non-mainstream player. Who's a sleeper player in all the domestic leagues that you've got your eye on this year?
Okay, glad you asked. So Jamal Mussiala, a little known right now, but still not a known commodity, but I think he could really turn it up this season for Bayern Munich, along with Florian Wirtz. I've been watching him for a while now. I think both of those guys could take Germany youth level and now to the full national team to the next level. So 2 tandem German players to watch in the Bundesliga. In the Premier League, there's Ismaila Sarr, who plays for Watford.
What a name drop.
Yeah. He was rumored to play.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he was rumored to be a big money transfer to Liverpool and some other Premier League clubs when Watford was relegated 2 seasons ago. So he helped them get back up. So we'll see what he can do in the top flight again. And then La Liga, I know Rodrigo and Vinicius. It's their time. It's now or never because...
that was my pick, was Vinicius.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So right now, they either have to show that they're Galacticos or they're going to get wiped out of Real Madrid, and a whole new squad's going to come in if they can't win under Carlo Ancelotti. So,
yeah. Likewise, I had my two were actually two Brazilians. So the first was Vinicius, who obviously just touched on over at Real. And the second one, and I'm actually excited to see what he does in the Olympics, is the Brazilian Rainier Jesus, who also plays over at Dortmund. So he is on that Brazilian Olympic squad. I'm not sure how much. I honestly think a strong performance in the Olympics from him would help his case for an increased role over at Dortmund. I do think he needs. He's the type of guy, just because of the amount of young talent and young prospects that Dortmund, obviously, they're just a factory of young prospects. I do think he needs an injury in front of him. Not that I'm pulling for anyone to get hurt, but it does feel like he's one injury away from being able to see any sort of significant time. But he's one where I really do think if he has a strong showing and helps lead Brazil deep into the Olympics, and has some flashy moments, has a really nice stat line, I think he's a guy who Dortmund would happily, insert into a lineup should they have, say 2 matches in 4 days. Then you just switch the lineup around, whether it's the domestic cup, a league game, plus a Champions League game, or any sort of pivoting like that. And then the last guy was just because of how good he was in the Euro Cup. It's your boy Florian Wirtz's teammate over at Leverkusen, is Patrick Schick, man. I really, really want to see if he can carry over. The guy looked so good. He looked so good in the Euro. And I would really love to see him and Florian Wirtz do some damage in the Bundesliga this year. Really fun player. He plays with some serious gusto, some serious fuck you, which is always welcome. A big energy guy in that regard. So definitely looking forward to seeing him over at Leverkusen. But that being said, we are up for time. That was a great show. That was a really fun show. Producer Craig making his debut. Guy made his debut on our card stream last night, breaking some boxes for some of our customers over in Wicked Soccer Cards. And then he makes his debut tonight, producing Two-Way Takes episode 4. So big thank you to you, buddy. That was a great time. Great time. Good job, man.
Yeah, fun to be here.
Yeah,
Can't wait to see Mitch back again though next week.
Yeah.
In the hot seat.
In the hot seat. I know. It won't be the last time we have you on. Don't worry. We're definitely gonna make it a point to have more guests on the show, and incorporate more like-minded sports individuals onto the show. Have some fun with it and whatnot. But that being said, that's going to do it for episode 4. Big ups to everybody who tuned in. We appreciate you guys. Be sure to go out and follow us on Instagram at Two-Way Takes. You can follow us on Twitch as well, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is obviously Two-Way Takes as well. Appreciate all you guys who watched. We hope you enjoyed. And thank you again. This is Two-Way Takes.